Welcome back to another episode of the Knowledge Bomb. In this week's episode, we're going to go through a goal setting exercise. In my experience, goal setting and the process in which we come up with our goals is backwards, right? A lot of us come to the table saying, I want to do this, and then basically forget about when, how, and why, and we just start training towards it. And we end up not achieving our goals and wondering, like, why didn't this happen? And I think that this can be avoided by just going through a little bit of a process that I use with my athletes. It's fairly simple, but we're going to ask ourselves 5 questions, right? And so in answering these 5 questions, you should be able to, 1, determine if your goal is realistic, help you determine the timeline of your goal, and 3, give you a little bit more inspiration, right, and motivation to achieve that goal. The first thing to ask yourself is, why are you here? Okay? Why are you doing what you're doing? And I know that why, right? Why is a big popular term these days where everyone's like, oh, find out your why. But there's a lot of truth to that, right? Think about waking up 9 months into training and you have something that you see on paper, you see on your phone, and the last thing you want to do is what's written. Right? The question is, why are you going to do that? Because someone told you, because you made a promise, because, you know, social media depends on it, expects it. I mean, these are honest questions to ask yourself. So asking yourself, why do you want to achieve what you want to achieve? Okay, so everyone has a goal in mind. Think about if you achieve it and if you don't achieve it, what happens, right? What actually happens if you fail versus if you succeed? And I think if you can fine tune and you can dig around in there, you'll get a little closer to your why. The second thing is, how are you defining success? This kind of goes hand in hand with why, but honestly, how are you defining success and failure, right? Is the only thing tying you to feel successful is standing on the podium, right? Or is it much deeper than that, right? Is it about becoming a more intelligent athlete? Is it becoming a much more rounded person? You know, is it becoming a better friend, a better father, a better husband, or wife for that matter? But think about how you're defining success. The more specific we can be in defining the successes in our training and in our goals, the better off you're going to be. If we're left at the end of the season to judge whether we succeed or fail based on how we feel, that is a very slippery slope to get into, right? You know, if you're moving, if you're getting a new job, let's say you're going through just life stresses in general, you know, divorce, kids issues, maybe parents are sick. Like, think about how just those instances outside of training, outside of your goals, affect how you view and how you feel about life. There is no way that those things are not going to affect the way we view success or failure. So trying to actually put measurable things on paper is very important. This is going to allow us to take an objective view on saying, did we actually achieve our goals or did we not? I'll give you an example. Time and time again, right? And I'm sure you've come across it, you have someone who has a goal and you say, what do you want to do? What do you want to achieve in your training? I want to be fit, right? I want to be strong and fit. Well, I mean, that is a very subjective definition or goal, right? I could already think, man, you're strong, you're fit, like you've achieved it, congratulations, you don't even need to be here. Or if you're basing it off of, oh, I want to feel fit or I want to feel strong, that's going to be really tough, and I would challenge anybody and say that you would probably never ever feel satisfied based on the day. And so a much better way to go about saying, oh, I want to be fit and I want to be strong, is defining it. So if you think about, okay, what type of person is fit? What type of person is strong? And I could say, well, you know, Olympic lifting, right? Like, I look at those people and I think they're strong. And fit, like, I would love to run a marathon. So all of a sudden I'm starting to pare that down into specifics where I'm saying, okay, well, maybe I want to run a marathon and maybe I want to Olympic lift. Now those are very different, and aside from the goals themselves, you can see how it's a little bit more specific. So in any conversation you have with your coach, with yourself, it's the number one thing I believe is to look at how are you defining success. I would argue that a lot of folks day in, day out are succeeding when they're feeling like they're failing. The next thing is a social statement. There is a lot of power in a social statement. Let me talk a little bit about what a social statement is. A social statement is basically you just telling the world what you want to accomplish and just putting it out there. If you want to win the CrossFit Games, if you want to compete at a high level, if you want to go into this sport for the first time, whatever it is, you need to shout that to the world for two reasons. It's not bragging to the world, right? Look at me. Or it's not, putting out false hopes or whatever. It's basically saying, look, I'm on this journey and I'm letting everybody know so everyone can support me. And that's basically it, right? You're giving some accountability to what you're gonna start doing, right? So the social statement can come in a lot of different ways. Nowadays with social media, it's really easy just to, say what your goal is, right? Make that social statement. There's a lot of power in a social statement and actually putting it out there, right? You're putting yourself out there, you're committing. You're not leaving a back door open, you're letting everybody know like, hey, this is what I want to achieve in the coming year. So if you don't have a social statement, if you haven't made one, I would encourage you to, one, find out why, and then how you're defining success, and then make a social statement, right? People are gonna hold you accountable, it's a great thing. The fourth item is measuring success. How are we measuring success? And the biggest question to ask, is success measurable? If we cannot measure success, you are left up to your own interpretation of whether you succeeded or not. And again, going back to like feelings are subjective, they're changing all the time, they're affected by a million different things in life. And so if we're left to judge our success off of the way we feel, it's a really, really crappy place to be. So figure out how it's measurable. How are you measuring it? You can simply just take a journal and start brainstorming about what is important and how those characteristics are measurable, and you can just kind of list a bullet list and fine tune it. I really like that process in terms of figuring out how to measure it. You can talk to your coach and saying, hey, look, like this is my goal. I want some measurable numbers or something that's tangible. I think it's very, very important. The fifth and last piece is resources, right? Do you have the life's resources to achieve your goal? This is probably one of the biggest overlooked pieces in goal setting. What I mean about resources is, do you have the emotional, physical, monetary, time, whatever it is, do you have those items that you need to invest in the process to achieving your goals, right? So a lot of us, I would bet, set goals and we don't have the emotional reserves to embark on what's needed to achieve our goals. And through no fault of our own, right? Maybe we're stressed out, maybe we have a family to take care of, maybe we're moving, maybe we lose our job mid-training, something like that that's going to affect our emotional ability to be engaged in our training, right? The same with money, right? Like what you're doing takes money. You got to belong to a gym, you got to travel places, whatever it takes, right? So do you have the money needed, right, to basically commit to this process for your goal? Do you have the time? Can you train 2-3 times a day? These are important questions to ask yourself. And now, not having one or two of these or some of these being limited doesn't mean you're not going to achieve your goals, but I think being realistic about what you have and what you can afford to give is very, very important. So now that you've set your goal, you've figured out why, right, how you're going to define success, you've made a social statement, right, you've figured out how to measure your success. And I would encourage you not to measure it in black and white, meaning fail or succeed, but in different degrees of success, if that makes sense. Then this will allow you to basically look at what is needed to achieve your goal. going through these 5 steps will, 1, set you on a path for success. 2, it'll help you organize your life, your energy, and basically focus it in places that you need to focus it. And the biggest thing, it's going to leave you at the end of your season feeling satisfied in some way without this ambiguity. And what I mean by that is just, you're going to know if you succeeded, if you failed, and then the biggest reason is why. Why did you succeed or why did you fail? And these are really the makings of developing an athlete. For those of you guys just tuning in, make sure you check out our previous episodes in our coaching series. It's very important that you watch this entire series in order. There's gonna be a lot of things that we're talking about that's gonna build upon each other.